Hi everyone, it's Ardith. Welcome back to my channel. Today I'm doing some mirror stamping. And because I did the mirror stamping, I needed to do some mirror masking. So I'll give you some tips for doing that as well. I used some of the new Essentials by Ellen stamps and dies to create a Dinomite Christmas card. This set is full of dinosaurs that really can be used all year long, with lots of accessories to help create fun scenes. So to start, I have my waffle flower and water media mat and a white panel of cardstock tucked right into that corner. I'm going to stamp the two dinosaurs facing each other, and to do that, I always think it's good to start with the mirror image. There are ways to get precise placement of a mirror image, but I find it easier to get the mirror image down first, then I can see where everything else needs to go in relation to that. For approximate placement, I put the stamp with the back of it onto my panel where I wanted it. I stuck it down, and then I flipped the panel over and peeled it away from the panel. This leaves the stamp pretty much where I need it. I picked up the stamp with an acrylic block and then flipped it over right in place, trying not to move it too far. I inked it up with my new Gina K Obsidian ink, and I flipped it back over and stamped it right onto that white silicone mat. Then I placed my panel back into the corner and I rubbed over the area where the image is on the mat. That transferred it to the white panel, and now I have the start of my dino scene. I inked up the image again, and I stamped it where I wanted it, so that these two guys are facing each other. Next, I stamped some Christmas lights. They're working together to decorate a Christmas tree. I cleaned the ink off the media mat with some stamp cleaner and a baby wipe, and it came off really easily. So to finish my scene, I want to mask the dinos. I could mirror stamp the dino again, or I could have tried to get another image off the mat before I cleaned it, but to be honest, I didn't even think of that. I'll try that method another time. My method was to take two full-back sticky notes and put them sticky sides together before cutting out the mask. I tried to neutralize some of the sticky before I put them together, and I might try harder to do that next time. Or I could have been smart and stamped the dino on the non-sticky edge of the sticky note, because it was tricky getting these two masks apart. You're being spared a whole 2-minute clip of me trying to get my nail between the two so that I could peel them apart. In the end, my craft pick did the trick. Another thing you could do is to use non-sticky paper and add some repositionable adhesive after you'd cut the two masks. Lots of ways to do this, but in the end, what counts is that I had both dinos masked so that I could stamp the Christmas tree between them and then do some ink blending for the sky. And just to show you that I do learn from my own little mistakes, here's where I cut the two tree masks. This time I made use of the non-sticky edge so that the masks came apart really easily. Next, I used one of the Essentials by Ellen Landscapes dies and some 2-inch Post-it tape to create some hills. I blended Fiesta blue ink over them with a life-changing blender brush, and I faded it out toward the top of the sky. I dabbed off my excess ink onto the media mat, and it stays wet there for a while, so it's easy to go back and pick it up with the brush when I need it. Then I stamped some more Christmas trees along the snow line. Here's a good masking tip. You don't always have to mask. I could have stamped the trees before I blended the ink and then masked them, but then I would have had to wait for the black ink to dry completely so that it didn't smudge into the blue. But because I know I'll be coloring the trees darker than the blue in the sky, I stamped them after I did the ink blending, and no one will ever know. I did mask that one tree just so that I could put two close together. Next, I wanted to add some more interest to my ground with the hills, but again the black ink on that mask may not be fully dry. You know I don't like to wait, so rather than waiting, I used the other half of the tape to get some clean ink blending. This is much lighter in color with very little blue ink, just to add some snowdrifts on the ground. I removed the masks and my scene is coming to life. I used my COPIC markers to color the dinos, but I used some little tricks to really give these guys some texture on their skin. To start, I used BG93 all over the dino. Then I went in with BG96 on the left to build some shadows, and I added some BG99 right along the edge for some deep contrast. Then I went back over everything with the BG93. And he looks cute just like this. But to add some texture, I simply used the 0 marker, the Colorless blender, and I put dots all over him. This marker actually removes color and is a really easy way to add interest in the look of texture. Next, I did a similar thing with the Dino Bellies. I used 3 colors in the E family to build up some dimension. I started with E70, which is quite a purpley brown, and then I added some shading with E71 and E74. Then I created stripy texture with the 0 marker. See how easy it is to get a different look just by using that marker? Then I finished the rest of the dinos with some yellow spikes and moved on to the trees. This time I created dimension by using messy coloring. I just swiped 2 shades of green, YG67 and G28, over each of the trees. Remember, I was just trying to cover up the blue ink blending, and by leaving the coloring loose like this, the trees really look dimensional. The other neat little trick I have is to make the lights look like they're glowing. I colored each light either red or green, leaving a little area white as the highlight to make it look shiny. But here's the trick. I went back in with a pale yellowy green and a pale pink, and I just went around each light, and it looks like they're plugged in and ready to go on the tree. I finished off the tree trunks with the E57 marker, and then I trimmed the panel with a circle die. I used my mini Misty and my obsidian ink to stamp the sentiment. I love that this ink is crisp enough that I can use it to stamp the images for coloring and the sentiment. I added some shadows under the dinos with BG10, and then I added some highlights to the dinos and snow to the trees with a white gel pen. I admit that I've often had trouble with white gel pens, even to the point that I stopped using them for a long time. But now I find that starting the ink flowing on my skin and then using a very light touch on the paper is a much better method. Do you have tips for me on how you're successful with your white gel pens? I'd love to hear them. When I was done with that, I went back in with Nuvo glitter drops in dots in the sky to add some sparkle to the snow. I didn't worry about overlapping or not with the white gel pen. It's subtle and it just adds a bit to the snowy feeling. To finish the card, I stamped, die cut, and colored the little star topper for the tree, and I put the circle panel on a black panel and onto a white card base. Mirror stamping is a great way to get more out of your stamps, and being able to mask a mirrored image is much easier than you might have initially thought. And don't forget how easy it is to get a new look with your alcohol markers by using that colorless blender marker. Flat coloring is fine, of course, but one little extra step can really add something. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up below and subscribe to my channel for more inspiration. Shopping links are below in the description and also on my blog. Thanks so much for watching. See you next time.